and welcome. We will be analyzing this video from Uncivil Law. Uncivil Law is an attorney based in Texas, and he is analyzing Trooper Joe Paul's testimony.
It's glass from a cup. It's glass. It's not. It doesn't belong to the vehicle.
Right.
It's glass.
But if I told you it didn't match that cup.
Are we talking which cup? We never established which cup we're talking about.
How many cups have we been talking about, Trooper?
You said that cup. From the scene? Okay.
That cup. I'm talking.
I just want to make sure that we're on the clear path here.
Yep.
On the clear what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Really sure.
All I said, it's
found next to John O'Keefe's body in the snow at 34 Fairview on January 29, 2022. You got the cup in mind?
Yes.
Okay. That's the cup. When I say cup, that's the cup.
Okay.
Yep.
Would it change your...
There's only one cup in this frame of reference. There's been no ambiguity about the cup. When he says that cup, it can only be referring to one thing. There's only one antecedent. There's only one antecedent, right? The word that is a definite article. It refers to a specific thing. That cup, not a cup, that cup. It's a specific antecedent. And we all know what cup, because there's only been one cup in discussion. But somebody's like, I'm not sure which cup you mean. Literally the only cup we've been talking about. There's only one possible antecedent. That's how English works. There's only one possible cup we could be talking about. The cup that was found with John O'Keefe's body. That cup, you idiots. Can you follow along? Can you follow the bouncy ball? Can you follow the bouncy ball as it moves? Please follow the bouncy ball. Damn.
Opinion.
And I did a video about Trooper Joe Paul, and the audio in that video was regretfully terrible. I apologize for anyone who sat through that. But Trooper Joe Paul was low-hanging fruit. You couldn't not make fun of him. And again, for the district attorney's office, the prosecution in Norfolk County to be okay with appointing Trooper Joe Paul as their accident reconstructionist. It's like it was a joke. Like, who was Officer John O'Keefe to them? Because he clearly didn't matter that much if they appointed Trooper Joe Paul as their accident reconstructionist, a man who was underqualified, extremely uneducated, and not just that, but who does not articulate himself in a manner as someone who is informed and intelligent. He just does not. He has no confidence in what he's saying. He does not even believe what he's saying.
If I told you that the glass pieces on the bumper don't match that cup.
What's my opinion on it? All I said was glass from a cup. That's the only opinion I have. It's glass from a cup that was on a bumper.
Are you saying a cup?
A cup. A cup. It's not glass from the car. That was my opinion on it.
What cup? What cup? If not that cup, what cup? Where is this other mysterious cup coming from? That the glass is from? Where is it coming from? Where is this other glass coming from? What other cup could it be?
I never said it matched to the scene.
You didn't.
I never said that in my thing. I said it's glass from a cup.
How did you make that determination, incidentally? How did you make the determination it's glass from a cup in particular? I mean, there might be an answer to this question. I'm genuinely asking. But how did you make that determination? Is glass from a cup different from glass from other purposes? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe there's certain kinds of glass that are only used for cups and not used for anything else. I don't know.
Another point to this is that the prosecution chose Trooper Joe Paul as the accident reconstructionist, and yet it's because if they had chosen an actual accident reconstructionist, that actual accident reconstructionist would have disproven the state's case against Karen Reed. They chose Trooper Joe Paul on purpose deliberately, selectively, because he did not know his shit, and he was easy to push along to tote this narrative that this happened the way it did, even though there was hardly any documentation of the evidence. No one was keeping track of the evidence. No one was recording it. Where are everyone's notes? Like, this was sloppy as fuck. And then they put Trooper Joe Paul on the stand to waste everyone's time and make us all slightly dumber.
I'm not an expert. But how did you determine it was glass from a cup? Did you determine it because it's a type of glass that only is used for cups and no other purpose, so it must be from a cup? Did you make it that way? Or how are you drawing these conclusions? On what basis did you make the conclusion? Can you help me out on that one, please? Please help me out.
It's safe to say you didn't do any testing to determine the forces necessary to shatter a taillight on a 2021 Lexus 570, right?
I did not do testing.
Of course not. Why did you do testing, expert?
Well, wait, I was told by Lieutenant, was it Gallagher, Paul Gallagher, Cat and PT. He told me this is where the body was found. So I used my devices to mark that location.
Okay, but before you used your devices, he just pointed someplace on the ground and said he was about here, correct?
That's correct.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you that Lieutenant Gallagher never saw John O'Keefe in place at the scene? Did you say that?
No.
Wow. Okay. So the person who told you where the body was found did not personally observe the body at the scene. So your marking of where the body was found was based on a guy telling you where the body was found who did not observe the body. Yeah, that seems a bit problematic to me. And you based your entire reconstruction. You based your entire reconstruction on where the pieces of glass were found, which themselves were not marked. So those are not marked where the pieces of glass were found.
He has a correction on the video that reads pieces of taillight plastic.
Than the one by the fire hydrant, because, well, we have it in a shot, but none of the other pieces of glass were marked. So you don't know where the pieces of glass were found. And you're also, it's based on where the body was found, and that mark was based on someone telling you who himself did not observe it. And your entire reconstruction was based on this, well, I guess we'll call it evidence. And that's what your report was based on. Do I really have to sit here and point out the problems? Do I really have to sit here and explain why this poses a problem? Do I really have to explain it?
Again, to people that still today think that Karen Read is guilty, why? Like, look at their fucking accident reconstructionists. How could you possibly believe that Karen Read is guilty listening to Trooper Joe Paul?
Because if I have to explain it, God help us all.
Yeah, whoever was there, who was there with you when you started doing your measurements, etc.? Or Fairview?
It's Lieutenant Gallagher. That's who.
Just you and him?
And myself, and I was training a trooper at the time. She was there.
You were training a trooper at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so
this guy's in charge of training troopers? This guy's in charge of training? Holy shit.
You had no photographs of John O'Keefe in place, correct?
Correct.
There were no establishing shots.
How do you not have a photograph of where the body was found? How do you not have 300 photographs of where the body was found? So you can determine frames of reference.
Guys, I didn't even hear this before. This completely, I missed this. I did not know that the prosecution did not have a photo of where John O'Keefe's body was found. Isn't that the most bizarre shit you've ever heard of? There are always photographs of the body in a crime scene and of everything in the crime scene. Even if they don't know if it's relevant or if it pertains to the crime scene, there's a photo of it. You know, they'll figure it out later when they go through all the evidence and they analyze all the photos. How could you not have one photograph of John O'Keefe's body in the snow? And guys, I'm sorry if I'm slow or dumb. Like, and I've never heard this. I've listened to countless hours of this trial and I've never heard this part. It's like watching a movie, right? Like you watch a movie like 4 or 5 times and you can always find something that you didn't notice before. Like I think that's what happened with me with this trial. I cannot believe that they don't have a photograph of the body in the crime scene. Again, if this doesn't stink like a cover-up to you, then you're just out of touch with reality. You're out of touch with what's really going on in this case. This never happens. There are always photographs of the body at the crime scene. This is absolutely a cover-up.
Isn't photographing the body kind of, sort of basic crime scene procedure, I think? Photographing it from many angles. And so you can see like what's around in the scene and all that kind of stuff. How do you not have photographs? And you're the reconstruction expert. How's that work?
Do you have any scientific evidence to establish what her actual path of travel is, or did you just guess at the path of travel?
I got the addresses from Trooper Proctor. I put them into the thing, and then one of the possibilities of 36 miles, and that was after looking at all of them, at 36 miles is a possibility.
Right, understood. So that's what I'm trying to get to, Trooper Paul.
Okay.
That's one possibility. There was 36 miles, one route of travel, right?
Correct.
There are other possibilities, right?
Yes.
So between and among the possibility that you picked and the other possibilities, you just sort of had to guess. And there's no science to it. You said, I'm going to pick that and put it in my report, right? And you knew that there was another route of travel to the same location, correct?
What do you mean?
There were alternative routes of travel to the same 2 points, from and to the same points, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You could have tried to extract the location data from the street's cell phone to determine the exact route of travel, correct?
I don't know. I don't have access to the cell phone extractions.
So that answers my next question. You did not even attempt to do that, did you?
No.
If your testing occurred at key cycle 1164, that means you turned the engine on, the ignition on to start your testing, correct?
Correct.
And that triggering event that we see up there at 1164 initiated your testing. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So that 1164 is that's where there's no more unknowns, in other words. Right? You know exactly where the car is, who's in the car, who turned the car on, and what the triggering events were and what they reflected, because you did it, correct?
Correct.
It's you.
Yes.
So starting at 1164 and counting backward, before you started your testing, you know that the SUV had to be started, the ignition had to be turned over, and it was driven to the Sally Port in Canton at 5:31 p.m. from a tow truck on January 29th, correct?
I didn't know that.
You did?
You did or did not?
Did not know that.
Okay.
I mean, is that just logical?
The car had to be started and put on a tow truck. That would be key cycle what?
I don't know how. I can't speak to the fact that recorded a key cycle at that time.
I can't hear you.
I can't speak to the fact that would record a key cycle at that time.
Okay. If the car was turned on and driven onto a tow truck, would that be a key cycle?
I don't know because these keys record different ways, so I can't speak to how or why it did not record on there. All I can speak to is that those are the key cycles. The odometer mileage is is more what I was going after on this whole thing.
Trooper Paul, you just said unequivocally, when a car is turned on and then turned off, there's a key cycle.
I said when the car without the ignition on, that's a key cycle.
Right.
That's correct.
That's what I mean. When it's turned on, when the engine turns on.
That's the definition of what it is. I can't speak to why it didn't go on, why it did not record.
So we're going with, once again, the log is wrong. That's what we're going with once again. So the Celebrite data is wrong. The evidence data is wrong. The cops' reports are wrong. So all these databases are wrong. That is a lot of independent databases that are all wrong at the same time.
Just like when Jennifer McCabe said that the search at 2:27 a.m. never happened, that the cell phone data was wrong. The cell phone expert was wrong. She never searched 2:27 a.m. Like, that's what these people think about data and science and shit that you can't really dispute because it's recorded.
You just have to say that is a lot of independent databases that all have errors all at the same time. And okay, so the Lexus, every time there's a key cycle, would record it, but for some reason it didn't record those key cycles. Somehow, some way, the Lexus just did not record those particular key cycles. Yeah, and we're supposed to believe this. We're supposed to believe that once again that the data is just fundamentally wrong. Okay. I mean, sure. Why not? All right.
Let's talk about the ignition cycles.
Okay.
Before 1164. Okay. Obviously, the car had to get to Canton PD because you saw it there, correct?
Correct.
Assume for purposes of my question, the car was turned on, and there's a video of it turning on, driving up onto a flatbed tow truck.
Yes.
That would be ignition cycle. I mean, use your word, key cycle, ignition cycle, 1163, correct?
Again, ignition cycle, key cycles are two different things.
Which word do you want me to use?
If you want to talk about key cycles, key cycles. If you want to talk about ignition cycles, it's ignition cycles when its vehicle gets turned on. A key cycle does not mean to be turned on.
But every single ignition cycle includes a key cycle. You can't have an ignition cycle without a key cycle, correct?
Well, if you want to talk about it, just use the key cycles or ignition cycles. I'm trying to make sure this gets out. I'm trying to make sure that this gets put out the correct way.
Every ignition cycle includes a key cycle, correct?
In a sense.
By definition, it has to, right?
It doesn't have to. They record multiple different ways.
You can have an ignition cycle without a key cycle.
On civil law, he put, please stop fighting logic. The stupid hurts me.
I don't know how it recorded, but it could happen.
Sure, why not?
Explain that. How could that possibly happen?
Because the key cycle is when it turns on, not engine running, and then turns off.
Okay, so work with me here.
Ignition cycle is when it turns on, engine running for 2 seconds, and then comes off.
Okay, so.
Or the 2 seconds is not on long enough, it might not record one.
Okay, let's ignore the 2 seconds.
Okay.
That's not what we're doing.
Let's ignore that.
All right. Let's assume that it's an old-fashioned type of key.
Okay.
Halfway on, the electricity is on. It's like it used to be called ACC.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's a key cycle, correct?
For that intensive purpose, yes. This vehicle's not a key cycle, so not a thing.
Keep turning,
Okay.
and that turns the engine on, right?
It turns the engine on, correct.
An ignition cycle, right?
Yes. Well, then turns off.
So ignition cycle necessarily includes the precursor key cycle, correct? Even though every key cycle might not include an ignition cycle. Would you agree with that?
In that scenario, yes.
Fine.
Thank you for the basic logic.
That definition. I want to talk about.
I'm so mad that we had to work that hard to get basic logic out of him.
But Alan Jackson did a wonderful, beautiful job. Good job.
I mean, that was readily apparent several questions ago, but we have to pull teeth to make him do it. It's like, yes, that is logically required. Every ignition cycle necessarily is a key cycle, but not the other way around. We get it. We get it. All humans are mammals. Not all mammals are human. We understand. But yes, every ignition cycle is necessarily a key cycle.
I really do love Uncivil Law. Please check him out. He's awesome.
Thank you for following along with Basic Logic 101. At this point, I feel like I might need to offer a course on logical thinking and formal logic, because apparently these people need it. I'll need to offer a class on formal logic and you. If these premises are true, what must necessarily be true? In math, what must necessarily be true?
I'm going to show you an expert on this, and she's going to completely disprove what Trooper Joe Paul said.
This is a 3D illustration on the subject of key cycles, which is a very important piece of evidence that is widely overlooked. The data in this key cycle is referring to everything that creates this scene by Trooper Paul, and if he's wrong about the key cycle, it destroys his complete case. So let's start with the basics. This is a simple ignition switch. When you turn the key fully, you'll hear the engine start. After hearing it start, you'll release the key and it falls back to its on position. Then, of course, if you turn it back fully, it turns the car off. Now you can stick the key in and turn it simply to the on position. This is a key cycle. Then when you start the vehicle, this is an ignition cycle. All these cycles are recorded in logs. Every single time since the birth of the vehicle, every key cycle is recorded and logged. Even when you fully start the vehicle, creating an ignition cycle, there will always be a key cycle logged. So when Alan Jackson asked Trooper Paul if every ignition cycle has a key cycle, the answer should have been yes, but that would have hurt his case. So he was either deliberate in his deception, or at the very least, he lacks the expertise in the field to know better. Let's view that interaction.
Every ignition cycle includes a key cycle, correct?
In a sense.
By definition, it has to, right?
It doesn't have to.
To clarify, regardless of the expert's opinion, every turn of the key is a key cycle that is recorded. So let's look at what key cycle numbers they're fighting so hard over. It's right here. Key cycle number 1162, out of Trooper Paul's report, which goes with the trigger report that has all the throttle, braking, steering, and speed information that was created in this scene. The problem is, when the key was put in creating key cycle 1162, it wasn't Karen putting in the key. Let me show you how we know this. Trooper Paul started the car, creating key cycle 1164 during his testing. Moving backwards in time, we know the next key cycle was when the SUV was drove off the tow truck and pulled into the police department's garage. This would be cycle 1163. When the police department took possession of Karen's car at her parents' home, they started the vehicle and drove it on the tow truck, creating cycle 1162. Continuing, earlier in the day, Karen and her dad started the vehicle and drove it from John's home to his home, creating cycle 1161. And going back one more time, when Karen left John's home at 5:07 to drive to Jennifer McCabe's home, this would have been key cycle 1160.
It reads, so you can see this portion of data is not attributed to reversing into Brian O'Keefe.
Now these are known key cycles. There can be many more that are unaccounted for, but the point of all of this is that 1162 wasn't Karen. It simply doesn't match. No matter how they try to justify or equate things to be different than they really are, it's just nonsense. Key cycles were recorded for a reason, or the system in Alexis wouldn't work correctly when collecting data. It's that simple. Thank you for watching. This is a 3D illustration on the subject.
So please check out AZ Get Industries. I will leave the link to the channel and the video in the description below. But yeah, guys, if the state really wanted justice for John O'Keefe, they would have utilized actual experts. They would have utilized actual scientific data, experiments, and conclusions. The conclusions Trooper Joe Paul came to were purely unscientific. And I really can't say what they were. They were hardly a guess. They really just threw numbers together, and they didn't care if the data and the evidence didn't match their narrative. They were so entitled and so arrogant with their attempt to frame Karen Read that they didn't even care if the science and the data, the traceable data, the recorded data, did not match their narrative. That's how arrogant these people are. Just so dark, so fucking dark. And I live in this state. It makes me sick. Thank you for watching.